All right.
Yeah. Talking of mics.
Yeah.
Because we want a bit of audience participation.
Correct. We'll
Linda,
have,
are you good to like run around with the mic if anyone wants to
Perfect.
do, and like if someone on, maybe we can have one per side or something, have a volunteer on, yeah. So yeah, if you want to get involved, happy for you to get involved, but make sure the mic's in front of you because this is going on the podcast, right? So anyway, over to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so Chris Lockhart, Oliver Cronk, we've got Phil Yanoff down there, and there's Wendy, if you haven't met Wendy. We're going to get them bigger heads here in a minute as we get through a couple of these slides. But really quick, and then we're going to blast through. For the next 4 hours, we're going to review this is a podcast, and it was 2018. I was having a cigar with my friend Phil, and he's like, you got a lot of things to say, and I'm like, thank you. And he's like, you should like do something with that. And I'm like, we should start a podcast. I'm like, great, but I hate listening to podcasts. I think they're boring because I lose track. I'm like, but I was watching a podcast, and it was like 4 guys on a screen talking about ancient Greek warfare. That was interesting to me. But we get to this thing, and I'm like, we should do this thing. So we started it in 2018, video podcast. We had different folks on. We started it out at trying to be like, hey, let's, consulting is full of all sorts of, jargon and whatnot. Let's debunk this stuff. It's evolved into, this is like 84 episodes now. They're about an hour long. Some of them are less than that. And it's video. There's audio versions as well, so you can see all the links and do all the things. QR code may or may not work, I don't know. And it goes somewhere, right? So you'll be able to see all the things. It's best watched on YouTube. That's the intro for that. We don't have time, I think, for deep intros. I'm a management consultant. Oliver, you've been a consultant before. I know Wendy's been a consultant. Phil's done consulting before. So we are consultants who say things about lots of different things. And there are prizes, by the way, at the end of this for good questions. So hopefully, you'll have some good questions. So with that, I am going to move through this quickly. So we're going to do a quick intro, right? Is that what you wanted to do? Because you want to use this for Architect tomorrow as well. Right?
This should be a podcast episode, so do the
thing.
I'm
going to do a thing, okay? Just bear with me for a second. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Consultants Saying Things. I'm Chris Lockhart. I'm joined here by Oliver Cronk, and we've got virtual Phil and virtual Wendy down there. They're little small heads. We're going to make them bigger heads in a minute. We're live at the Twin Cities Business Architecture Forum. It's the 10th annual version of this summit. So it's a successful thing, and we're very happy to be here. This is the second year in a row that we've done live recording from here. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this. The topic of this episode is really around some soft skills. And really, quite honestly, the conversation has all been about AI so far, right? The whole week. And so really good topics, really good conversations, but what we want to dig into, and what, frankly, Linda, you asked us to dig into, was some soft skills and why are they important and the importance of being human. So with that, now we're going into slides. You good? Okay. All right. So we've got challenges, right? Ollie, we've talked about, we know these things. And Oliver, my favorite one is sleepwalking. You brought that up yesterday.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of people-related things we're sleepwalking into. Like a lot of people are getting excited about the tech when it comes to sort of the transformations we're going through at the moment. Obviously, AI is a big part of a lot of those transformations, but I keep seeing the lack of people centricity, right? We need to kind of reframe it around how does this affect our clients, our employees, our stakeholders, the wider communities that we serve or interact with, the ecosystem. And yeah, I won't bore everyone with that now, but we've touched on that, and that was one of the things I covered in my talk earlier in the week.
Yeah, and one of the things I bang on about all the time, that's to use your Britishism, I love them.
Appreciate it.
It is, as an enterprise architect, and the book that's out there, by the way, The People Problem, I wrote it a number of years ago. The whole bit behind the people problem is some of these things, right? The inability to describe what it is you're doing, the inability to have a conversation with another human being. I've got the best technical answer in the world, but I can't communicate that idea, then it's completely ineffective and it's useless, right? And so all of these things, I think, are playing into these challenges, right? And I don't know that, maybe people in the audience would have a different perspective. I don't know that we're doing a really good job connecting some of the soft skills that are required, not just for consultants, but for architects and for other folks, to addressing some of these things, right? And I think of some of the conversations that we've had, we talk about like this one crisis of confidence, and the skills that people see, as we've talked about, right, being taken, or it appears to be taken by some of these AI capabilities right away from their jobs, right?
And then the sort of fear and reluctance to sort of engage because you're worried about job displacement, or what does this mean for my role going forward? Is my role going to become dull?
Yeah.
Are they seeing robots? Yeah, it's like that whole, how do you get people to engage? Because there's emotion there, right? And you need to create psychological safety and allow people to go on the journey.
Ordinarily, we would now go to Phil and Wendy for sage wisdom, but we also want to get to questions, so we're going to blow right through that. Speaking of soft skills, it is this thing, right? Like, and I think we've heard a lot of it. And look, no one's downplaying expertise, right? I mean, but if you sleepwalk through life thinking that, hey, I don't really need these things because all that matters is outcomes, all that matters is results, all that matters, the numbers at the end of the day. Maybe that is true to a certain extent. But if you have to do any of these other things that are on the screen, you got to have these soft skills, right? It's got to be there. Otherwise, you got a problem. And I like this thing, and it was one of us that said it in some episodes. Sometimes it's probably Phil, to be perfectly honest. Soft skills matter if you're a human being interacting with other human beings. Well, even with AI, we're still going to be human beings interacting with other humans.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Again, we're going to just ignore all these things. Now, Phil, I'm going to get to you here in a second because one of the things that you actually said in the episode 82, which is out on the website and on YouTube, is like you said. I think we have a clip of this. You said you're not selling PowerPoint. You are not ChatGPT, right? And Wendy has this fantastic anecdote. Wendy, this is the sailing anecdote. I'm going to show it here in a second about getting from where you are to where you need to be, and that's really the job of not just consultants but of architects. And AI can automate and facilitate and speed that up, but at the end of the day, you've got to have that emotional trust. Otherwise, a lot of our work doesn't really work right. Anything on this before I get to the clip? All right. Can I push play on this? Is there audio on this? If only we had some technology people.
So Chris loves to up the bar of stress testing, like doing the live podcasting. I think this is the first time we've possibly tried to play a clip of the podcast as part of a live podcast recording. It's getting very meta. It's like levels of podcast within podcast within podcast going on right now.
All right, hold on here. There it is. That's right. There's no audio. There's no audio. So anyway, that's not going to work. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's skip this. Let's go straight. Let's get Phil and Wendy up big if we can, please.
That's what the podcast looks like. They
this is it.
Share what they know. It's awesome.
There they are. Look at that. Phil, I had this great idea to play the clip of you saying you are not ChatGPT. So I don't know if you can remember exactly what you said. Now just recap it a little bit for us, right? This was the whole bit about being human, right, and not being ChatGPT. You're not PowerPoint, is what you said. You have any comments on that, Phil? Because I know you think about this quite a lot.
I mean, first off, can you hear me?
Yes,
we
can hear you loud.
This is all brand new. Thank you. You can hear me now. Excellent. I'll try to get my dog in on this in a minute. But yeah, I mean, yes, we are not that. And I think part of this is, I think what we're trying to get at then, and we're trying to get at now, is that it is us that people are engaging. It's us as the whole package, not just these ideas, not just that PowerPoint, not just whatever tools we use. No one ever looks at me and says, man, you've got the best #2 pencil. It's the whole idea of what we bring together in that sort of synthesized package. So I think, as we keep coming back to this idea of it being it's a people problem, and we are the people. So we got to figure out how to actually help other folks navigate past this without the tools being front and center. We are not our tools. Wait a second. This reminds me of a line from a movie. You are not your jeans. I think
khakis.
That's
not your khakis.
You're not your khakis. Yeah, that's right. You are not your khakis. I skipped over the expletive part of that, but I knew you'd get it.
Wendy, I was wondering maybe if you could recount sort of the sailing story, right, and the broken motor and the guy that came out of nowhere, right, to help you with this, because I think it illustrates, right, this idea of I have access to the best knowledge, I have the best tools, but I don't have that little human bit that really mattered in your particular case to keep you from being stranded, by the way, in the North Atlantic.
You've stolen her thunder now.
That's the story. Thank you, everybody.
That's the story.
And I'll only tell it if Phil will add his wisdom that he added last time as well, because it did really underscore this human bit. But long story short, my husband and I were sailing on the coast of Norway, and we were on an island in the middle of nowhere. And there was a malfunction with the motor. And here's how bad that malfunction is to make the story clear. Something happened where instead of being in reverse, the motor went forward. And you can imagine how problematic that is when you're docking and you ram into a dock with a bunch of boats around you. So we have this broken motor. We're in the middle of nowhere. We have no one to ask. And so it was sort of a miracle on how we found this guy. We went to a grocery store, and somehow this total expert who knows how to fix our particular old motor comes into the boat, takes a look at it, does some tinkering, goes out, comes back with some other tools and fixes it. So again, the human part of this is, yes, my husband and I could have looked at ChatGPT and called friends on how to fix this motor, but he knew it right away. So he accelerated us with the exact information we needed. And the human confidence and joy, I can't even tell you, because if we had fixed it ourselves, can you imagine how terrified we would have been if actually we were going to be like going forward instead of reverse again? So the human element was really, really magical.
Bill, you had a lovely bit, I thought, where you responded to Wendy's story with something about being the bridge and leading people across the bridge, right? Taking their hand and leading them across the bridge. And the first time she told this story, I saw your face, right? And if you watch the episode, you'll see it. And Phil's like, "Oh my God, that's amazing," because you said the joy on her face from having that thing fixed, right? And that connection and what that meant to her, and you saw it in her face over Zoom, which I thought was kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, and that's it. And I feel sure that at the time, I'm probably also thinking in our lives that this is what our job is when we are helping others, right? Is to bring them to that state of joy, right? We are all bridge keepers in some way. We are taking people from one place to another, whether that's, transporting them on a boat or across a bridge or something like that. But the idea is, the people that we are working with start in situation A, wanting to get to place B, and it is our job to help them figure out how to navigate that transition from A to B. And we want to give them that joy, that satisfaction, that sense of accomplishment.
Sorry, we're doing one little thing here, back to some slides, and then we'll get back to the folks. That doesn't work, so we won't use that. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go, because it's animations. So I have some questions for you guys, right? And hopefully you can see the screen, Phil and Wendy. Wendy, by the way, great. Is that a coffee cup with a consultant saying things on it?
Oh,
Nice. Did I forget?
Yes.
Beautiful.
looking good.
Now-
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, all right. We'll get to that in a minute. So the first question, right? And these may or may not have been assisted by AI. I don't know. The question, how do you know, right, when to push back, right? So if we're looking at these soft skills and these human skills, right, and it's not just about being the bridge and bringing people across, it's also knowing when to tell your stakeholder, no, or when to let them make a mistake. And I think this is an interesting one, right? Because as AI accelerates things, and especially, Oliver, when we talk about sleepwalking into AI, and we got to have the AI, and let's go do the AI, when do you tell the stakeholder, no, you don't need the AI, or you don't need that thing, you don't need that solution? I'd like your perspective, Oliver, and then we'll get to Wendy and Phil.
Yeah, I guess a danger of repeating some of the things I said on the panel yesterday with Selena and the others is it's about recognizing whether the stakeholders you're talking to have enough awareness of the capability that they're looking to sort of exploit, right? And I think if it's evident that they are suffering from sort of over marketing sort of saturation and they need sort of steering or course correcting a little bit, yeah, you can sort of allow a mistake to happen and they can learn the hard way, but actually it depends on what the consequences of that are going to be. And I think if it's something that's business critical and it's going to cause significant pain, then I think you have to be brave and stand up and go, I know you did that thing last night with Claude and it wowed you and it did that thing once, but we need to sit down and get you to understand that that's very different to us rolling that out, scaling it in a reliable, responsible way. So I think it's judgment, like you obviously need to pick your fights, but I would say it's, for me, from a tech translation perspective, from that perspective, it's like spotting the warning signs that someone is not aligned with fundamentally what the outcome is that you're trying to do and the feasibility of that.
Yeah, and we'll get to Phil and Wendy in a second. I think just on this real quick, right? This is really difficult if you're a consultant, right? Because what the stakeholder wants to do is oftentimes what they're paying you to do, right? And and there's stuff that goes with that. Like you're a trusted advisor, so you're there to also say no and also there to guide them. They might not know the answer. They may not know what their problem is, right? All of those things. So this becomes, I think, really a critical skill, especially for consulting, but I think for architects, especially, right? Because the stakeholder could be your boss, it could be another part of the enterprise, it could be something like that. So I think this is a really good one. Can we get them big heads back up? Oh, look at that. We got you on a switch now, boy. We got the geek squad here. We got everything going. Phil, what do you think about this one? Speaking of geek squad, Phil, weren't you on the geek squad?
Right. I heard you. Yeah, yeah, right. Wait, I want to be more. Yeah, okay. Let's set that aside for a second. Okay, in this spot, right? First thing in this, there's so many layers here, right? How do you know when to push back? I mean, first off, where is your spot for epistemic humility, right? What if you are the one who is wrong? I mean, how do you do this? And so the idea is I'm trying to guide someone to a place. And so I'm going to lean back on the thing that we talk about all the time. How can I ask a question that will lead us to it, right? This is Socratic inquiry. How do I ask the question that leads the person maybe to a state that I know? So, for example, you're talking about this Claude example that Oliver gave, right? So in that, what I say, look, first off, you stroke. I love the intention there, the idea that we could make this thing easier. I've got a concern, and I'm kind of curious, like what happens if this only works 5 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10? How would we respond as an organization if we didn't get the results we wanted? This is a way I think that I would go about this. So I think in this case, I'm going to fall back on a rubric that we've used a bunch of times. Let's ask questions to lead people to where we're going.
I wish I had Phil GPT.
Phil GPT. That's what we need.
My life would just be so much easier. By
the way, the answer to all of it is just ask good questions. That's it, right?
True.
Wendy, what do you think about this, right? Because I mean, you've done this, I know, your whole career, right? So you got the answer for this one, right?
No, but I do like this, and I do like bringing it back to questions. And I think for me, it's not so much pushback, but inform. And I would inform unless I had absolutely the wrong conditions where I couldn't do that. And, as Phil is saying about questions, bringing it back to logical things like what outcomes are we trying to achieve, and really testing if this thing that we're about to do is going to help us to do that. And those things aside, as we move forward, maybe we try to limit the investment or the thing that we're going to do so we don't make a big mistake if it's not the right thing. So try to contain. And then second, as they say, never waste a good crisis, with the most delicate and, open way. If something does go wrong, how can we learn from that and have conversations so that we can adjust for the next time?
I love that. Let's flip back to the next one. Look, she's already ahead of me. I love this.
Jennifer's amazing.
Okay, second question. Again, small bets. Phil, what was the small bets bit? Oh, that was Wendy. Okay.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Yes, perfect. All right, good. We're in agreement. I love it. Strategy for building influence. Phil, this is all you, right? Before you need the influence, how do you build it? Because again, this is, if you are meant to lead a client, if as a consultant or as an architect within the organization, whether it's AI, whether it's anything else, right? If you don't have the influence to be credible in a situation where maybe you are trying to push back, or maybe you are trying to give a different scenario, if you don't have that influence, if you don't have that credibility, you can't build it on the fly. So how do you build it? How do you know to build it ahead of time and so it's there when you need it?
Don't say anything stupid. That's my first strategy right there. Try not to say anything stupid. You know, I think the way I would go to for this beginning is like part of what we're here to do as a consultant is to help our clients, help our stakeholders build agency of their own. So one of the ways that we build trust and influence with them is we allow them to keep their agency. I'm sorry, we don't try to rob them of their agency. We're actually looking at them saying, you know, they say, well, we got this problem. And I think the first question is, well, what have you tried? Right? How are you working at this now? What do you think is the path forward? Because one of the things that we think a lot is that we want to sound smart because we think that's how we actually build trust. But I think the way we do this is we ask the kinds of questions that show we understand the problem and I'm not about to just spit out the answer because I don't think I know enough yet. I'm willing to work to get to the truth.
I love that. Oliver, I know you worked Big Four. We don't have to go into who that was, but I mean, this is something, right, that especially when you're building networks within consulting organizations or within a corporate entity
Yeah.
if you're in industry.
And I think this applies to the business architect role as well, and or business architect leaning enterprise architects, right? The ones that are, I'd say, pretty close to internal consultants, right? I think that's often the role I see business architects playing in the organizations I've been operating in or working for, and I think it's that ability to sort of build empathy, build trust, and I think that's it's hard won, easy lost, as Phil made that joke around saying something stupid, which catches us out quite a lot, right?
But it's mostly me.
But yeah, no. So I think the network is really important. But going back to the Big Four piece, I mean, that was probably my biggest learning was, as a consultant, particularly in a large consulting organization, it's all about your network. And I think that's also true in the business architecture role internally within an organization, right? If you are that bridge, that sort of translator between the different business units, and you kind of have that all-encompassing sort of golden thread that sort of pulls people together, because I think that's the magic of the business architecture function done right? You can break down those silos, you can kind of get collaboration, you can get cross-cutting kind of working. So yeah, I think the network is really, really important.
Wendy, what's your take on this? This is on. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. And I love how this is worded, right? Build influence before you need it and maintaining it. I think it comes back to, like you're saying, Oliver, it comes back to relationships and knowing that whether we're consultants or architects or change leaders of any sort, the relationships are key. And knowing that this is just part of our job. It's not an afterthought. It's something we need to make time for and be deliberate, both as individuals and as architecture or consulting teams. And a lot of times this can be so simple. It's just intent. It might be having a coffee with somebody. It might be just, dropping an article off on their desk or sending them something or, sharing some words after a meeting. So just the little relationship building to keep it there at all times.
And I think Selena, maybe you said this in one of your sessions, right? Which was, sorry, now I broke the fourth wall. Sorry, everybody. Which was like, you have to practice these things, right? I think it was in the context of negotiation. I think you're speaking, right? But like this has to be practiced, right? This isn't just something you turn on. Like, you've got to do it over and over again. Phil with his dog, for example, as we've got there we go. Oh, that is pretty adorable. Okay. All right. Moving along here. Let's get this going. This is a good one, especially for architects, I think, right? That, a lot of architecture things fail, right, from time to time. So when a collaboration is failing, how do you diagnose whether it's a process problem, a people problem, or a you problem? I'm just thinking through it through the lens of management consulting. Quite frankly, lots of things don't go the way anyone expects them to go in some of these engagements. And, I think from time to time, we either, in a consulting context, sometimes we like to blame the client. Quite frankly, they didn't take our advice, and that's why,
Scapegoating.
Right? Or you blame the juniors. They didn't do a good enough analysis. So, it's almost never the partner that blames himself. Do you know what I mean? And I love this. There are different ways to look at this, and it could very well be a you problem. And one of my favorite phrases, I'll keep it PG, but there's a spicier version of this, right? It's like if you encounter somebody, right, and you've got a problem with that person or they got a problem with you, that's one off. Two people, well, that's whatever. If every person you meet, there's a problem, It might be you. You might be the problem,
That
right?
might be a red flag.
You might be a red flag. I don't know anyone like that, do you?
We're
Sorry.
recording.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think about this bit here?
I think you touched on it just now, which is having the balance of self-awareness, but not over-analysis. This is the thing I think that's plaguing me is like, if you're quite analytical, you can turn that power inwardly on yourself, and you can overanalyze something. It was my fault, but equally, you need that balance of like pragmatically looking at whether this is something that you could have done differently, or whether it genuinely is a client sort of constraint, or what was the thing? I think and I guess culturally, we've touched on this in the podcast, right? The US and European cultures are somewhat different, but I think over here I see an awful lot of kind of projection of what people think they need to be in the role they're doing, rather than perhaps sometimes a bit more humility and a little bit more kind of, do you know what? Yeah, maybe it is a mea culpa. Maybe I do need to think about like my role in this. And I think that builds trust as well. Going back to the previous trust point, it's like if people can see that you're not just a scapegoater, you're not someone who's just going to shift blame, and you're genuinely going to look for the root causes and do that proper RCA, then I think that would be my approach. This is not, like I say this, it's not always easy, right? Because there's often emotion, like when you're in crisis, when it's, your blood's boiling, it's a really hard trait, I think. It's a real people problem thing to sort of address in yourself, is to take yourself out of that moment. And I think earlier in my career, and I've touched on this on the podcast as well, in my 20s, I was just so fiery, like, no, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. I was constantly,
Sorry, how long ago was that?
5 minutes ago.
Okay.
It was me and you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So HR, had me on speed dial pretty much. And it took a lot of hard work to go, you know what, sometimes I just need to not react. I need to sort of, I need to not look for someone to blame here. I need to engage and figure out what the problem is.
Wendy, what do you take away from this? Is it always just a people problem, as I might articulate in my book, the people problem? Or is there other things here at work?
Yeah, I honestly sort of see this one as a little bit of a pyramid. If I'm looking at a situation, it's like I first want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and say, is it a process problem? Is it an issue in the system? Is there clear intent? Is there clear outcomes, clear measures of success, clear roles, clear motivation, et cetera? How do things flow, et cetera? And then beyond that, my next is, then is it a people problem? And even so, I'm still giving the benefit of the doubt. Is it a lack of psychological safety? Is it a lack of clarity? Is it a lack of, competency or knowledge on something that it's just something we need to fill? And then it becomes more like, well, or is it a misalignment? Then we can start having different conversations. And then when it comes down to, is it a you problem? I'm exactly with you both. When you start to see the patterns happening, that means it's a me problem. And we just need to be introspective and continue looking at ourselves.
I love that. Phil, what do you think here? What does the dog think?
Yeah, I know. Well, the dog thinks he wants to talk to you, and I'm trying to stop that. But Wendy's got this, right? I think another framework that's kind of that is to start with, what can I do, right? So I like this sort of inside out approach, right? Start with me. Maybe I didn't clarify. Maybe I was mind reading, right? It's super easy to get involved with that, particularly when you're in a room full of people as you think they know what they want because you never asked that bit. And then, if it's not me, then maybe there's something about the process. So it can be the people. I'm going to save that one for last, but a lot of times of the process. And the question is there some way that we can tilt the table so that everybody does the right things or we get the right outcomes in this, right? It's things that we can build inside the process. And then lastly, maybe it is a training, a people, a thing, we just haven't put the stuff together for folks to be able to be successful in and of this moment. So I think, this is all solvable inside out, but, thoughtful people will solve these problems. Let me just say that what I think happens a lot is that we like to start by blaming somebody else for what's going on. And that's an ego defense mechanism, which really doesn't scale very well into large, complicated problems, right?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right with that. We've got another question. We're up against the clock. I don't know, Oliver, in the room, how do you build the muscle to have difficult conversations? Because I know you've had them with me, so
I don't think there is a cheat for this, right. Unfortunately. I think this is where it's hard-won experience. I'm not going to lie. I think it depends, I guess, and that's the classic architect answer, isn't it? But if you're blessed with sort of self-awareness and empathy and all that sort of good stuff from from your nurturing and your upbringing, great. You don't struggle with this as much as perhaps I did. But I think for me, it's those war stories, it's those scars, it's that scar tissue you build from resolving difficult conflict with people. And I think the biggest epiphany I've had in my 25-year technology career is it's not about the technology, it's about building relationships, and it's about the people and the stakeholders. I got that all wrong, I think, in the first sort of decade of my career, and then sort of rework that. And I think it depends, but I think it's those sort of difficult situations. If you want to shortcut that, of course, there's training, there is negotiation skills training, there is presentation skills training, all that sort of stuff that I did as well. So that did help. But I think sometimes some of this stuff just does come with experience.
Mentorship. I know, Wendy, you've talked about mentorship a lot. Okay, there's another hour of content. But let's go to questions. Can we do that now? So that because we have prizes, by the way, for the greatest questions that there are. Who gets to decide this time? Wendy and Phil, you can decide who gets the prize and who doesn't.
Or Phil's dog.
Phil's dog.
I say Wendy. Wendy gets the prize. We like her best.
It'll be like Puxatawny Phil, right? Hold the dog up if he sees a shadow.
Oh, I like that.
Wait a second. Do you see Punxsutawney Phil on the shelf behind me? I have a copy.
So we have a question.
Yeah. So thank you. So all that stuff you were just talking about is kind of generally applicable to business and business interactions, enterprise interactions. I was just wondering, is the AI topic special or different and needs special attention? Because there's a couple things going on. One is that it's a ubiquitous question for humanity that has existential, ethical, all these implications broadly. But then when we talk about business, right, in many ways, it's a solution seeking a problem, which is a whole different problem space. But because of that ubiquitous existential, ethical thing, there's a ton of emotion wrapped up in it, both for the stakeholders and for the consultant and for whoever's inside it. And sometimes your emotions fluctuate one way or another. So we have this kind of ubiquitous human question, a different business question for the solution and the problem, all wrapped up with this intense emotional experience. Do we approach this differently than other business?
Let's give the big heads. Guys, Wendy, Phil, you want to take this one?
Phil, go for it.
Wendy.
Nobody wants to answer the question.
There
you go.
No, I mean, I'm happy to weigh in on it. I think this is bigger because it's confusing, and we're uncertain of the operating environment, so we don't know what's really going to happen. But I love the intention of saying, I do not want to be a solution in search of a problem. Let's work on the things that we are working on. But I think the thing that's maybe slightly bigger for this is from AI. There is a much larger threat surface with AI, right? Because it has the opportunity to impact what we're working on in so many ways all at once. And I think this is what we find a little bit confusing and off-putting about it. So we do have to spend some time thinking about where this goes in what we're doing. And there are people that feel threatened by it. And so we have to figure out what we're going to do with that as well. So yes, I do think this is a little different. And I think that it is, it's just a more encompassing problem. It's a more environmental problem than some of the other things we've worked on.
I also think that because it's so multi-layered, it needs to be addressed and conversations had around it in multiple different areas, right? So, conversation of solution looking, for a problem is one part, but I think some of the existential stuff are really opening space to say, at this moment, what does it mean to how we can shape our future differently? What do we think the purpose is of our organization? Questioning all these sort of legacy assumptions, those are good conversations to have, but alongside in safe spaces, sort of separated from some of these day-to-day ones.
I just wanted to quickly build. I think if we were good at dealing with the hype cycles that keep coming, then this wouldn't be so much of an issue. I think this one is a particularly massive one, like what we now, 4 years, or 4 years in. And, I think it is hyped, so there's a lot of pressure, but there's also a lot of consequence. And I think it's this kind of combination really of, the length, this has got staying power. I think, as I've said in other sessions this week, There's going to be some correction event. I'm fairly certain of that. Probably, if I was a betting person, maybe even as early as Q1, Q2 this year, I think we'll start to see some correction events happening. But it is genuinely transformational as well, and it's sort of getting that balance right. And I think if we were good at dealing with the golf course influenced marketing, influenced technology transformation, rather than the business, architecture-led outcome capability uplift type approach. But equally, having said that, as a technologist at heart, this technology does also raise new art of the possible, new opportunities, new business models. It's going to disrupt the ecosystem architecture as much as our own architectures. How are organizations going to interact and connect and do commerce, much like the internet did, right? So I think we do have to have an open mind about what the technology will bring our organization's way, but at the same time, not putting the cart before the horse.
Any other questions? We got Jason. No one has any questions. This is great. No, Linda, you got the mic, right?
I do. Where's the question?
Jason?
Oh, right
Jason's
here.
had his hand
Sorry.
up, run it up, so.
Oh, and we're definitely getting to you because I ran out of time for you yesterday and
Thanks. Question for you guys. What's your take on strategies for dealing with, sometimes in the consultancy role, you are presenting a solution or you're highlighting something that actually makes a stakeholder look bad, prove they've done something wrong, take control away from them. So what are strategies you've got for dealing with scenarios like that where the right answer is going to make someone look bad and that stakeholder still needs to be in the game with you?
I'll give you the 5 second, and then I think maybe Wendy is a good one to answer this too, right? It's like the 5 second. That's false. I always look at it as like, look, you got to be honest with them, right? You got to be upfront and honest, and I think there are ways to communicate things without making people look like idiots, right, in front of their peers. And it could even be a pre-session, right? I had a client recently, and the only reason I'm saying this is because we're done with that client now. Great client, lovely, wonderful client. But they had to have like 4 pre-reads of the same content before the meeting where all the same people were in the meeting. In other words, there was no new person involved. They just didn't want other people to see their reaction to the content. So we had 4 pre-reads for 4 different constituent stakeholders. So they all knew what was in it and what was going to be said when we sat down, and they were like, oh yeah, that's a really good point. And it's like, it's that sort of thing, right? They were bought in. They felt they had a sense of ownership of it, right? So I don't know, Wendy, what do you think on this one?
Love it. I would have said the exact same thing, Chris. Strategy as sort of that pre-meeting. And with that person as well, if you can't turn them into a champion for the idea, turn them into, well, I found what we were doing and here's a better way to do it. I'm taking responsibility, put them in a light or allow them to sort of step up and make them look good. Sometimes other stakeholders can help to influence as well. If you have someone who, isn't really shifting their thoughts, that's another strategy that I would add to.
Another question?
Okay.
Ready to go.
So I'm taking on some of the early messaging from the session. So as a consultant, we are pretty much like the boatman and taking the passengers from the left shore to the right shore.
Oh, I love that.
In past
going.
years,
Yeah.
in past years.
I got to trademark that. Hold on.
Oh my God.
I'm so sorry. Carry on.
As consultants, we are taking them from left shore to right shore. We have built a significant emotional trust so that they can come in our boat and they know we are taking them to the right shore. In past, that was a 5-year roadmap planning, 7-year roadmap planning, and today it's like less than a year roadmap planning. Technically, for those passengers, we are running like headless chickens. How do you build that emotional trust over the years? I mean, how do you build in this changing scenario, whether you call it AI, whether it was blockchain last year or 2 years back?
Phil, you want to take that? You had the boat analogy, which I thought was great. You're the boat man.
That's what you had a question.
I just like that you want to copyright like the core tenets of Buddhism. So
I think we can sell that stuff. I'm pretty sure.
I think you're late to the trip on that one. No, I think this is right. So attention spans are much shorter, and we have to build trust faster, and that is absolutely right. So again, I think more than ever, what we are doing is calling upon us to have a high EQ, right? We have to figure out how to read folks and listen to them and act as trusted advisors as they are going on this. But the trips are shorter and shorter. I think that's absolutely right.
we have another question? I think we got time for maybe.
I was going to just quickly respond to that.
Sure, while we find another question.
I feel like we should have the left side of the room. I feel like the right side's got a load of great questions.
That's too many questions.
Well, there might be one more question, otherwise you can wrap. Oh, you haven't.
Sorry, Ollie.
Yeah, why are you getting the mic? I think sorry, yeah, one second. The beauty, I think, of the technology is perhaps it allows you to offload and augment so that you can focus on the people side of your role, right? So I think that's another thing is like, how do you offload the grunt work that allows you to have that, the kind of the stakeholder engagement. Anyway, your question, sorry.
Sorry if you have already covered this part of my question, right? So building on what Rajesh just shared, right? AI has become the iceberg in a boat scenario, you know, yeah, exactly. Like, because even the business architects or even leaders are doing their kind of AI research, and they will come with a predetermination to the meeting with, oh, this is what it means, and this is what it's going to happen if I do certain things that my consultant is recommending, right? So how do we overcome that iceberg challenge that is, like, you know, obstructing the boat navigation from one shore to another?
I don't know, Wendy, you got a 30-second version for this one?
You know, I feel like we're really focused on the wrong thing sometimes. Everybody is so overwhelmingly focused on that responsive perspective versus taking this opportunity to really help ask thoughtful questions about the future, what it can be and where we can go, and what AI can enable and where it's going to lead to. So I just really think that it comes back to us as leaders and architects to get people thinking about where we're going and take that opportunity and marry these two things together.
Awesome.
Beautiful way to close, I think.
There are no more questions. We're good, right? Okay, good. We're losing Wendy here in a minute. She's got a lot of things to do. Before we go, it's, what is it right here? Oh, buy merch. We've got merch. Okay. You get these little notebooks. That's pretty good. But more importantly, I don't know how to use this. If only I have been a consultant for 20 years. The next slide. Importantly, and Wendy's got a book. This isn't working. There we go. Wendy's got a book. I've got a book. We've got books. Feed our children, that sort of thing. Go buy a book. But with that, Linda, I wanted to give you, I had one other prize. And this is from the merch store. This is a beer stein that says, "Back off, man, I'm a consultant," which I thought was pretty good, right? So thank you for having us. I appreciate it. Thank you, Wendy, Phil, Oliver. Thank you, mate. Goodness. Oh, we're going to hug it out. Look at that. All right.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that was brilliant. That was beautiful. Thank you, everybody.